This is the first video of a multi-part series on repairing this 100-year-old Bible. The bottom part of this picture shows the unrepaired spine edge of this Bible that's going to be worked on. Here's a couple of pages that need to be joined back together and have the tears repaired so that they can be stabilized. And here's those same two pages once they've been stabilized, and will be the focus of this video. There's a lot of tears in this page. There's chunks missing out of the left side. The chunk you see on the right side you'll see in the video is actually paper just torn and folded up on itself. And here we're going to have a couple close-ups of the left side and the top right side that had some chunks missing to see that this repair tape can fill up those holes. I'm going to use a cleaner sheet of paper here to show the process of a simple repair first before elaborating on the difficult pages. I'm using bone folders to flatten out the sheet of paper so I don't repair wrinkles into the page, and I'm going to be using this long fiber tissue paper which has an archival adhesive on it. Notice I'm using the end of my awl to touch the adhesive side of the tape so that I don't get excess oils from my hands put into the repair. These holes are caused primarily from the bookbinding thread from the original binding, and I want to stabilize those holes more so when I go back to rebind the Bible I don't cause more tearing from my new thread into the very brittle old paper. I'm going to use the end of the bone folder to rub on the tape to make sure that I really get the adhesive down into the paper, get the fibers to mold together, and just creates a longer lasting and better repair. This next page is the outside spine edge page and a signature, and these dark brown spots is old glue from the original binding, and I'm lightly going to rub on it with my bone folder, and it's just going to flake right off. But in that process the edge has become very thin and even more brittle than some of the other pages. So after I clean it off, I want to do a repair on both sides of this paper to stabilize it. The previous page you saw was just one side because it was already fairly stable. And so I'm going to go the whole length of the center of this page. And I'm not worrying about my awl because I cut this tape just slightly longer than the page, so it's easy to apply. And the part that my fingers are touching right now are going to be removed and cut off so the oils from my hands won't be left. Carefully trying to apply the tape right down the middle and evenly catching both sides of those. I'm going to lightly burnish on this side before flipping it over, and I'm working on a green cutting mat which doesn't stick to the tape quite as much as some of my other surfaces will, but it will a little bit. So you're going to see here I'll use my bone folder to help get under the page and just gently lift up the tape to bring it over and flip the page over. I'll repeat that same process on the second side, giving stability on both sides of the weak part of the page. And then I'm going to burnish this side as well. After I'm done burnishing, I'm going to grab my scissors, and those tails that are left I'm going to just trim off flush with the edge of the page. I could line this up on my paper cutter, I could use a ruler and an X-Acto knife. The idea is that I want it perfectly flush with the end of the page, and you do whatever method is going to be best for you, and I'm quite comfortable with my scissors in accomplishing this task. Now for these pages that are really bad, I have a brush, a jar of distilled water, and I'm going to use an awl. And I'm going to use the distilled water to wet the folded edges of the paper along these tears, because they're very small pieces, they're very brittle, and if I just try to force them back, it's very difficult to uncrease paper. So the water will help it fold out, lay flat, so I can get the repair done. I'm using only minimal water because I don't want to oversaturate the page and make it disintegrate completely. It's just enough to relax the fibers of the page, and this is a very, very small brush with very, very little water in it. And I'm going to put the water on and really let it set into the fibers and rehydrate them before I try to fold them out. But there's times where even just this process is enough, that the brush itself is enough to get the piece of paper to fold back where it needs to go and be relaxed. For some of the more difficult parts, then I have my awl that will help me. Now this fold here, it looks like a chunk missing, but it's really the back side of the page is folded in multiple directions, and so I need to very carefully look at how the paper is laying and unfold that page. Again, this process was mostly able to be accomplished by just the brush itself. I carefully turned the page over, and the side of it had pieces that were folded on both sides, and so it really was a back and forth flipping option in order to get all the various parts to unfold and lay correctly. After doing this process, I realized that I was risking more tearing of the page by moving it so much, and so you're going to see here I stopped to go ahead and repair some of the tears from the middle of the page first to stabilize them, so that there was less chance of me, when I'm moving the page around, of causing more damage to those tears. I started at the smallest tears first, and then worked on the larger tears from there. What I found was, on this particular page, there was a main tear, and then it had been abused so much that the main tear then had side tears coming off of it. And so I wanted to repair those side tears first, and then once that was stabilized, then I could take care of the major repair. And I was able to get all the words to sit right on the page and continue the stabilization. Here you see me using the awl to flip a piece of paper out, and you see that the finished product is quite stable and ready to go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more like it, subscribe.